We had just signed the marriage license when her ex showed up, drunk, screaming. "You said I had until today." Everyone turned. She froze. I didn't. I just handed the officiant a second envelope and walked out. Hey there. We're working hard to hit our first 1,000 subscribers. If you love true, emotional stories, hit that subscribe button. It helps more than you know. Now let's get into the story. You know how people say your wedding day is supposed to be the happiest day of your life? Yeah, mine turned into a Netflix special halfway through the vows. We were standing there, just the two of us and a small group of friends and family, on this hilltop overlooking a lake. It wasn't a big wedding, nothing extravagant. Just a rented garden, a few chairs, a local officiant, and a cake table in the back with plastic champagne flutes. Honestly, I thought that simplicity made it perfect. No drama, no last-minute stress. Just me and her. We had just signed the marriage license. I mean, literally just signed it. Pen still in the officiant's hand. We were turning back toward our guests, everyone clapping, when suddenly, someone came storming up the hill. And I mean storming. Fast steps. Loud voice. Slurred yelling. "You said I had until today." Everything froze. You could feel the silence hit like a wave. Every head turned toward this guy stumbling up the path. Red in the face. Dress, shirt untucked. Half-empty bottle in his hand. No one knew what was happening. Except her. She froze. Her entire body stiffened. Mouth half open like she was about to speak, but forgot how. One hand still wrapped around the bouquet. That's when I knew. I didn't need to ask who he was. I didn't need to wonder what he meant. You don't get that kind of reaction from someone unless there's a reason. The guy stopped a few feet from us, breathing hard like he'd run from the parking lot. Then he looked right at her and said it again, but quieter this time. "You said I had until today." And I swear, it was like the ground opened up under us. No one moved. The officiant looked from her to me, clearly confused. My dad took a step forward like he was about to handle the guy. My best man muttered, "What the hell is this?" But I didn't wait for her to speak. Because I didn't need her to. I reached into my inside jacket pocket and pulled out a second envelope. No one noticed when I handed it to the officiant. Quietly, calmly. "You won't be needing that first one anymore," I said. Then I took off my ring, dropped it on the signing table, and walked down the hill. Let me explain. Because this didn't come out of nowhere. Not really. There were signs. And yeah, I ignored them. Because I thought love meant trusting the person even when your gut whispered something else. We'd only been together for just under a year. Fast, I know. But when we met, it was like this whirlwind. We clicked instantly. Same humor. Same taste in music. She had this spark that made everything feel louder and more alive. She always said she didn't like talking about her past. Claimed it was messy and not worth going into. Said she didn't like carrying old baggage into new chapters. I respected that. Everyone's got history, right? But she really didn't talk about her ex. The only time his name came up was once, maybe 2 months into dating. She mentioned he was a mistake and that she was glad it was over. That was it. We moved in together after 6 months. I proposed 2 months after that. She wanted a quick wedding. Said she didn't want to drag it out. I thought that meant she was just excited. I didn't realize she meant she was afraid something would catch up with her. Looking back, there were a few weird moments. Once, we were at dinner with her mom and her mom said something like, "Well, you always used to say Chris was your soulmate." She turned to her mom with this forced laugh and said, "Wow, weird thing to bring up, huh?" Then she changed the subject. I should have asked more, pressed harder, but I let it go. She was sweet, thoughtful. She left notes in my lunch sometimes. She watched every dumb documentary I made her sit through. I thought I hit the jackpot. But the closer we got to the wedding, the more jumpy she got. She was glued to her phone, kept stepping out to make calls that never showed up on the phone bill. She didn't want to do a bachelorette party, said she wasn't in the mood for partying. And the night before the wedding, she barely slept. Now I know why. He must have called. Or maybe they met. Maybe she gave him one last promise. Some kind of twisted countdown. You have until the wedding. After that, it's too late. Well, he showed up. Just late enough. I walked down that hill while everyone behind me just stood there. I could hear murmurs. My best friend called my name once, but I didn't stop. I didn't need an explanation. I already had one. Her silence said everything. What nobody knew, not even her, was that I'd already prepared the second envelope. 3 days earlier, I paid a visit to a lawyer. Told them I had a weird feeling. Asked if there was a way to pause a marriage that hadn't been finalized by the state yet. He said if I filed a notarized annulment and handed it to the officiant before the paperwork was filed, it would hold. That's what I did. So I wasn't caught off guard. I was just giving her the benefit of the doubt. And she wasted it. The officiant later confirmed she never sent in the first license. I made sure she wouldn't. He filed the second envelope instead. People asked me why I didn't confront her. Why I didn't say anything. What would have been the point? She already made her choice. All I did was walk away before it cost me any more. People love talking about red flags. But the thing is, they only look like red flags after everything falls apart. When you're in love, they don't feel like warnings. They feel like personality quirks. That's exactly how I missed all of it. After I walked off that hilltop, I couldn't stop thinking. How much of it was real? She knew how to make someone feel chosen. The way she laughed, the little thoughtful gestures, her warmth, it felt real. But now I know she was good at acting, and even better at hiding things. I remembered one night, maybe 4 months in, she cried while facing away from me. Said she dreamed of someone she used to love. When I gently asked what it meant, she whispered, "You'd hate me if you knew everything." I didn't press. I should have. There were other things too. Like the time at a flea market when she saw an old record player and said it reminded her of her ex. Then smiled and said, "Let's make better memories." Back then, I thought that was healing. Now I think it was nostalgia. A breadcrumb. Her phone was always on silent. Face down. She called it healthy boundaries. But I caught her whispering on the phone late at night, saying names that didn't match the stories she told me. One night, I watched her from the kitchen window, pacing barefoot in the driveway, talking to someone in hushed tones. She said it was her cousin going through a breakup. But I saw her mouth the name Chris. And suddenly, her mom's weird comment from dinner, something about how Chris used to be her soulmate, hit different. A week before the wedding, I asked her if there was anything she hadn't let go of. She kissed me and said, "You're the only one I want." And I believed her, because I wanted to. 2 nights before the wedding, I overheard her whisper in the bathroom, "I'll know by then. Just don't show up unless you mean it." She said it was a wedding toast surprise call with her sister. Even pulled her sister in to cover the lie. I still believed her. Until 2 days after the wedding, when her sister texted me, "You deserve the truth." I told her not to string him along. I'm sorry. That was it. No more doubt. She wasn't stuck between 2 guys. She was testing both, seeing who'd give her the better deal, the softer landing. Looking back now, the record player, the silent phone, the whispers, none of it was random. And yeah, I walked away humiliated. But I also walked away free. The next time she reached out, I didn't respond. Because I had already started writing the next chapter. One where she didn't exist. You know that feeling when you think the worst part is over, and then the truth hits? 2 days after I walked away, after the whispers, the texts, the silence, the awkward calls from relatives wondering what happened, I got the one message that made everything real. It was from him. Yeah, him. Chris. The guy who stormed my wedding like it was a season finale. The guy who screamed she promised him, until today. The one who almost broke me, until I realized I'd just dodged a grenade. He DM'd me on Instagram, of all places. I hadn't blocked him because, honestly, it didn't even cross my mind. I was too focused on breathing, eating, sleeping, surviving. The message started with, "I think you deserve to know what really happened. I didn't come there to ruin your wedding. I came because I was told it wasn't going to happen." And just like that, the floor dropped again. He sent me screenshots, texts, voicemails, photos of them, together, recent ones. They weren't sleeping together. Not physically. At least that's what he claimed. But emotionally, she never left. They'd been in contact for months. Even after our engagement. According to him, they'd been on and off for years. Toxic, sure. Dramatic, yeah, but intense. Like something out of a Nicholas Sparks novel if it were ghostwritten by a red flag. She'd told him she wasn't sure about me. She'd told him she needed time. She'd told him, "If you really love me, stop me before I say yes. I'll say no if you show up." That was 3 days before our wedding. And he believed her. Now, before you ask, yeah, I questioned if this was some pathetic attempt to justify what he did. But the timestamps on the messages lined up exactly with the nights she was calling her cousin. The late-night drives to clear her head. The shower she took at 1 a.m. the night before our wedding. One voicemail hit me the hardest. She was whispering, voice trembling but not regretful. "You don't get it. I need to do this. Just until I can figure things out. Just don't give up on me, okay? It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the way she said, do this, like I was a step, not a person. Like our wedding was a strategy. Like I was a convenient pause in her own personal love triangle. When I called my best friend to read him the messages, he stayed silent for a while. Then he said, "Man, she used both of you. You were her future, and he was her safety net. But she never intended to give either of you everything." And that's when I snapped. Not violently, not angrily, just clarity, like ice water to the soul. All this time, I'd been wondering what I did wrong, why I wasn't enough. If maybe I missed something, or wasn't romantic enough, or attentive enough, or spontaneous enough. But the truth? I was always enough. She just wanted too much. She wanted the drama of the past and the security of the future. She wanted to be chased and worshipped. She wanted to be rescued by one man while loved unconditionally by another. But life doesn't work like that. Eventually, one of the people you're balancing realizes they don't have to hold the weight anymore. Her first text came the day after I got the messages. "Can we talk? I know how it looked, but it's not what you think." The second, "You walking away like that, really? After everything?" The third, "Please don't make this worse than it already is." That's the one that made me laugh. Me? Making it worse? You hand your ex a fantasy and your fiancé a lie, and suddenly the guy who walked away quietly is the villain? Nah, I didn't answer. I wasn't going to give her a stage. But I wasn't done either. I screenshotted the messages from Chris. Every single one. Then I sent them to her, with one sentence. "You were going to say no, and stay married to me anyway?" She didn't respond. An hour later, I got a call from her sister. She said, "She's spiraling. She's blaming everyone. Our mom. Chris. You. She's acting like you betrayed her." That told me everything. There was never going to be an apology. No ownership. No real regret. Just deflection and drama and damage control. It was never about love. It was about winning. The sad part? I loved her. Like, actually loved her. Not the way people say it when they're just playing house. I was in. Fully. I would have followed her through anything. She just never stopped looking backward long enough to see I was already standing beside her. And maybe that's what hurts the most. Some people fall in love. Others fall into patterns. She fell into both, just not with the same man. After I sent her the screenshots from Chris and didn't get a reply, I figured maybe she was too ashamed to face me. Maybe she'd stay quiet. Fade out. But nah, that kind of person doesn't disappear. They regroup, reframe, rewrite the story, and I started hearing about it. One of her college friends, someone I barely knew, but who had always been friendly, texted me out of nowhere. "Hey, sorry to ask this, but did you really walk out on her because of a misunderstanding?" That's what she's telling people. A misunderstanding. Let that sit for a second. According to her, Chris was a crazy ex who crashed the ceremony and freaked everyone out. She told people I panicked and overreacted before she had a chance to explain. Apparently, in her version of events, she was the victim. And you know what? That didn't even surprise me. Because this is how she operated. She didn't lie directly. She just tilted the story until she could fit inside it more comfortably. She edited the facts until they played nicer with her image. But when I found out what she really planned to do, that's when the game ended. So let's go back to that marriage license. We'd signed it. Publicly. The guests saw it happen. But days later, after I walked out, I met with the officiant. He was just a guy we hired locally, calm, older, professional. I wanted to make sure the annulment envelope had been processed. He told me something I didn't expect. She asked me not to submit the license until she gave the word. I said what? He said, she told me she needed a day or two to confirm something personal. She said she'd reach out if everything was good. I didn't question it. Some couples want to handle paperwork privately. And just like that, it clicked. She hadn't submitted it on purpose. She was waiting to see if Chris would show, waiting to see if he'd stop her, waiting to see if she wanted to make it official. And if he didn't, well, then she'd file it. Become my wife. Smile for photos. Play the part. Not because she was ready, but because her plan A didn't show up, so she fell back on me. The plan B. The good guy. The safe guy. And that's what made this so hard to process. Not that she cheated. Not that she lied. But that she calculated everything. That every hug, every "I love you," every step down the aisle, it wasn't real. It was strategy. She was keeping two options alive like browser tabs, jumping between them depending on which one offered more comfort that day. And the truth is, she never intended to close either one. She wasn't loyal. She was afraid. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of making the wrong choice. Afraid of choosing someone and finding out later she gave up the better deal. So she never made a choice at all. She kept us both within arm's reach, telling me I was her future, telling him he was her past, but not completely. She had told him, just give me time. If I say yes, it doesn't mean I'm gone. It just means I need space to figure it out. That was in a message he sent me. Her words. Her plan. So yeah, she was going to go through with the wedding. Not because she wanted to be married, but because she didn't want to be alone. You know what really stings? The night before the wedding, we sat on the balcony drinking wine and talking about our future. She leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "Do you ever think this might be too fast?" I joked, "Only every 5 minutes." She smiled and said, "Promise me we'll take everything slow from here. No rushing. Just real life. You and me." And I believed her. I thought that moment was sincere. But now I know it was a stall. She was delaying the guilt, giving herself time to lie better. Because the next day, she walked toward me in a white dress, knowing he was on standby. Her sister called me again a week later. She said, "She's spiraling. Now she's telling people you forged the annulment papers. She says you were planning to trap her." Trap her? I laughed for the first time in days. The only trap was the one she set for both of us. I just happened to walk around it at the last second. I told her sister, "I'm not going to defend myself anymore. If people believe her, let them. I'm not going to spend my life untangling her mess." She paused, then said, "You know what? I think she's always been afraid of guys like you. Guys who see through the charm." That stayed with me. Because that's the thing about people like her. They live for the illusion. They survive off of the fantasy. The second someone sees behind the curtain, they panic. And she knew I saw her now. I deleted the wedding photos. Canceled the catering invoice. Returned the ring. No big speech. No social media post. No public explanation. Just quiet detachment. She can spin the story however she wants. She can play the victim in 10 different versions. It doesn't matter anymore. Because when someone shows you that you were just an option in their story, the only answer is to stop showing up in the sequel. You know what people don't expect from a man who's been betrayed? Calm. They expect yelling. Confrontation. A scene. Something dramatic to make the pain visible. But pain doesn't always scream. Sometimes it prepares. And that's exactly what I did. 3 days before the wedding, I knew something was wrong. Not suspected. Knew. And not because of some big smoking gun or some dramatic clue. It was the silence. The way she'd gotten too affectionate out of nowhere. The way she suddenly stopped joking about wedding stress and kept grabbing my face like she needed to memorize it. The way she kept her phone glued to her lap, even in bed. That silence was loud. And then came the moment. We were on the couch watching a movie, something forgettable. She was curled into my side, fully present, as she liked to say. But then her phone buzzed. And when I glanced at it, she flinched. Just a quick motion. Barely noticeable. But I felt it. She grabbed the phone, turned it face down, and leaned up to kiss my cheek. "I love you," she whispered. And I swear, right there, in that exact moment, I realized. She was trying to love me enough to stop what she'd already done. But the truth was already too loud for either of us to pretend anymore. The next morning, I went to see my lawyer. I told him, "I know this sounds weird, but I need a backup plan. Just in case." He looked at me like I was crazy, until I explained the situation. I didn't give names. Just said I had a gut feeling that something wasn't right. He said, "You can file an annulment in advance, but it won't mean anything unless the marriage hasn't been processed yet." I said, "What if the officiant holds off on filing?" He said, "Then you've got a window." So we printed it, signed it, notarized it. I even paid extra to have the documents stamped on the spot. Then I placed them in a fresh envelope, labeled it private, time-sensitive, and slid it into the inside pocket of my suit. Just in case. And that's the part that gets overlooked when people talk about what happened at the ceremony. They think I made a snap decision, that I walked away in a fit of humiliation or anger. But the truth is, I planned that exit. I just hoped I wouldn't have to use it. The day of the wedding, I was calm. I greeted the guests, took photos with my parents, made jokes with my best man. I kissed her forehead and told her she looked stunning, because she did. But inside, it was like I was walking a tightrope. Every step felt heavier. Every smile took more effort. And the whole time, I kept thinking, if he shows up, it's over. If he doesn't, I'm still not sure what she'll choose. That's what haunted me. Not the fear that he'd come, but the fear that he wouldn't, and I'd end up married to someone who was still deciding between lives. And then he did show up. The moment he shouted, "You said I had until today," I didn't feel shock. I felt relief. Not because it was over, but because I was right. Right to trust my gut. Right to prepare. Right to protect myself. When I handed the officiant the second envelope, he blinked in confusion. I leaned in and said, "I need you to file this instead. The other one stays sealed." He nodded. No questions asked. Then I placed my ring on the table, buttoned my jacket, and walked past every stunned face with a calm I didn't know I had in me. No yelling. No speech. No scene. Just me, exiting a performance I didn't sign up for. Some people call me heartless. One of her friends DM'd me and said, "You humiliated her." In front of everyone. I didn't reply, but I wanted to say, she planned to marry me while still leaving the door open for someone else. You think I'm the one who caused the embarrassment? No. All I did was refuse to play a part in her two-man show. The real irony? A few days after it all blew up, she texted me a picture. It was of the ring I left on the table. She wrote, "This could have been real. You didn't have to do it like that." I stared at that message for a long time, then deleted it. Because it was real, for me. I came in ready, honest, committed. She came in undecided. And the second you hesitate to choose someone, you've already chosen not to. So yeah, that second envelope, it wasn't revenge. It was clarity. It was self-respect. It was me choosing me, before someone else could choose both of us and call it love. The thing about walking away is it's quiet. There's no crowd, no dramatic background music, no trophy at the end, just silence. And then, eventually, peace. After the wedding blew up, I laid low. I didn't post anything, didn't blast her online, didn't call up mutual friends to tell my side. I figured people would believe what they wanted to believe anyway. And honestly, I didn't care anymore. Because when you walk through something like that, when you're used, lied to, and made into someone's safe choice, you learn pretty quick that validation doesn't come from the crowd. It comes from knowing you made the right exit. The first week after everything, she tried to contact me. A lot. Text after text. Long messages. Short, desperate ones. Some apologizing. Some accusing me of ruining something beautiful. Her last message said, "I made a mistake. He doesn't want me either. Can we just talk?" I didn't answer. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because there was nothing left to say. What she wanted wasn't closure. She wanted access. To my kindness. My forgiveness. My future. But after everything she did, she didn't get to ask for more from me. Not anymore. Chris? He disappeared. Ghosted her, apparently. According to her sister, once she broke down and tried to reconnect, he stopped replying. Said he needed time. Blocked her a few days later. That's the thing about guys like him. They only chase what's unavailable. They only fight for people when it's forbidden. Once she was free, he lost interest. And I think that broke her more than anything. Not the wedding. Not losing me. But realizing neither of us were waiting for her anymore. As for her reputation, well, it crumbled slowly. People found out. Friends talk. Screenshots got around. The officiant, who turned out to be a friend of a friend, told someone about the two envelopes. That part alone spread like wildfire in our small circle. Eventually, even her closest friends stopped defending her. One of them messaged me months later and said, "We thought you were overreacting. Then we saw the receipts. I'm sorry we doubted you." I just replied, "No hard feelings." And I meant it. I spent that summer working on myself. I traveled a bit. Picked up old hobbies I'd let die during the relationship. Read books. Hit the gym. Reconnected with people I hadn't seen in ages. And one day, while walking through a street market in a different city, I saw this young couple. They were laughing, holding hands, arguing over what flavor ice cream to get. And it hit me. That's what love's supposed to look like. Uncomplicated. Present. Joyful. Not a performance. Not a gamble. Not some high-stakes emotional hostage situation. A year later, I met someone new. Not a rebound. Not a fix. Just someone who saw me. And didn't ask me to compete with ghosts. She knew about the story. I didn't hide it. I told her everything one night over coffee. Not for sympathy, but so she'd understand where I'd come from. She listened. No judgment. No pity. Just silence and one hand on mine. She said, "I'm glad you walked away." So am I. Sometimes, people ask if I regret anything. If I'd go back and change how I handled the wedding, the envelope, the exit, and honestly, no, because I learned the most important lesson I'll ever carry. Love isn't a question you wait to answer. It's a decision you make clearly or not at all. And if someone ever hesitates to choose you, you walk, with your head up, and the second envelope in your pocket. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day, and trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.